What's going on, X-Men fans? It's me, the X-Men guy, back again with another video. Today, we are going to be reviewing the entire first season of X-Men 97. And, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I already reviewed the first 5, episodes, on my other video, my mid-season review for it. So, I'll quickly run down that. First episode, I thought was a great introduction and beautiful animation. Second episode, beautiful animation, and I really liked Magneto's speeches and how strongly written they were, and the emotional moments like when Storm lost her powers. Third episode, I liked it, great animation, but at the time I felt it was a little disjointed from the rest of the episodes. Luckily, that was fixed later in the season with the importance of Sinister and Nathan. Episode 4, I didn't really like it. Felt like a filler episode, and they wanted to progress Jubilee and Sunspot's relationship, and also they wanted to get ready for Life Death Part 2. However, it seems as though they didn't have enough episodes to do that, so they just combined it in one, and I didn't really like the episode that followed. And then episode 5, remember it, the Genosha episode. Great animation. I don't think we really have to talk about that in depth, but probably the best episode of the show, and I still think it's the best episode of the show. But anyway, let's get on to the new episodes. We started out with the Life Death Part 2, and I liked it. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't the best. I feel like if they had done a full episode devoted to Life Death Part 1, I might have liked it a little more. But I feel like it kind of, I don't want to say it killed the momentum for the following episodes that was built up in the Genosha episode, but it definitely, like, softened the momentum. And I wasn't too interested in what Storm was doing. Like, I liked the character growth and everything, and the animation was beautiful, but which, do I even really need to say that for the rest of the episodes? You guys already know the animation's going to be great. So, throughout the entire show, animation's great. But, I don't know. For Life Death Part 2, it just wasn't as good as the rest of the episodes. Definitely not as bad as Life Death Part 1 / Motendo. Did not like that. However, it was okay. It was fine. But, anyway, Bright Eyes. The next episode, this is the episode where it kind of sets up everything for the finale, and it is great. We see Storm not turn evil, but driven to do some rash actions because of the death of Gambit, and I really like how they build up her character so that in the, which one was it, Part 2, in episode what is it, 6, 7, 8, no, in episode 9, we're able to see that see her switch sides, and it doesn't seem out of place. I also like the reveal of Bastion. That was pretty cool. I like the flying purple people eater aspect. Magneto wasn't dead. We found out that, but there's still one thing that I don't understand. So Magneto had his magnetic field up, right? But Leech was hugging him, and if you don't know, Leech's powers cancels out any mutants around him. He was hugging Magneto. Magneto's powers never went out. He still was able to do the magnetic field. Now, maybe his magnetic field was dampened by the powers, but usually Leech just completely gets rid of it. So, I'm not really sure what happened there. But, anyway, we get to see, I believe in this episode, we get to see Captain America. That's a cool cameo. There's a bunch of cameos. I love the cameos. They're pretty good. But let's move on to the finale, alright? I also thought, just overall thoughts from this episode, it was a great setup for the finale. Before we get into the finale, I have a quick, nitpick with this series. I don't really like how they kind of glossed over Scott cheating with Madeline. They had some moments in there, like when they're searching through the rubble, where they kind of address it, but it's kind of glossed over. It's kind of like Jean just forgets about it, and I hope it's addressed in season 2 more, because I mean, yes, and also they glossed over the Logan and Jean thing. So I hope in season 2 they kind of elaborate on that more, because it feels like it was left behind in season 1 of the show. But now really onto the finale. So what I really like that this episode does is kind of integrate Nightcrawler into this team, and I really like that. I really like how Nightcrawler has now been put onto the team, and I hope that in the future we see characters leave and join the team, because I like that about the comics. I want that to be in the TV show, because I don't like sticking to status quo just constantly. I like when things are shaken up a little bit. But oh my gosh, I totally forgot to mention Xavier in the last episode. Well, quick thoughts on that. Xavier, I like them. Pretty accurate to the comics. But yeah, not really much to talk about there. But Xavier comes back in this episode at the end, and it's nice. It's cool. He's back. This episode kind of, again, just like the last one, felt like setup for the finale. But the last episode was supposed to be set up for the finale. This is the finale. However, we did get all the Sentinels attacking the X Mansion, so that's some finale-esque parts. At the end of the episode, Magneto shuts everything off, every single thing, every single electronic, everything off with his magnetic field, and he goes up into space with his big asteroid. Yep, his big asteroid goes up and shuts everything off. And I like that. I like how they visit, Bastion's mother's home, and how they learn all about Bastion. I like the dynamic between Cyclops and Cable. This episode was pretty good, but it's not the best for a finale. It's a good episode, but not the best for a finale. But next episode, this is the best. Well, not the best of all time, but it's definitely better than this one. Not that I didn't like this one, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Not best, but better. So in this episode, I feel like it really encapsulates there's one line in this episode that encapsulates what X-Men 97 is all about, which is what were you expecting black leather? Now, this is an easily missable scene, but to X-Men fans and Marvel comic book movie fans as a whole, you definitely understand this. So, if you don't know, in the X-Men from 2000, X-Men 1, the first ever X-Men movie, there's a line in it where Wolverine is like, are we seriously wearing black leather jackets? And Cyclops says, what did you expect? Bright spandex? Kind of like poking fun at the comics. But that would be a funny joke. However, behind it, the director of this movie, Bryan Singer, actually didn't like the comics. He didn't like the comics so much, he was ashamed of them so much, he didn't let the actors even read the source material. Luckily, Kevin Feige snuck in some comics for the actors to read. And if you're wondering, Kevin Feige, this isn't the MCU. Kevin Feige was like, not the like head mastermind behind the movie, but on a lower level than that. I forget what his actual job was. But anyway, this is X-Men 97. This is kind of the line, taking that back and saying we're embracing the comics full on now, which I really like. But other than that, this episode is great. I like how they split the team. This made me think that the next season where we were heading towards the Schism event, I was totally wrong, but we'll get to that in my next video, where we'll be going over my theories for season 2. Into the actual episode. The actual episode is great. And I really like how this feels like the final fight. They split up the team. They well, they split it up in 3 ways. One goes with Magneto, one fights Magneto, and one goes fights Bastion. And I like how the heroes are losing at the end. They lose, but they come back in the next episode. And that cliffhanger is great. I actually have the comic back here that it is based off of. Thanks to my lacrosse coach, X-Men 304. That's what the episode's about. Wolverine gets all the metal pulled out of his bones, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. What can I say? It's pretty cool. I do have to say, Sinister seems a little disjointed from this finale, and he does in later episodes too. And the way they dispose of him in the next episode, well, I'll say my thoughts in the next segment. But I think it's a little bit, easy. And kind of played off for laughs. I don't think that was their intention, but that's kind of what it was. But yeah, this is a pretty solid episode. But next episode, that's the second best episode. I still think Genosha is the best episode, but next episode is the second best episode. Something I really like about this episode is, Professor X and Magneto Professor X is in Magneto's mind, and they're talking to each other. And, when Magneto starts talking about him being in the Holocaust, that's an example of what I think X-Men 97 does really well. And I hate to say this, but it's also one of the things that sets it apart from the original series, and hot take, makes it better than the original series. Yes, I said it after the first 2 episodes released. I said I think this has potential to be better than the original series. Guess what? I think it is already. Season 1. I think it beats every single episode of the original series. This may be a hot take, but I don't care. This is great. I like how it's less Saturday morning cartoony, and is a straight line and a straight storyline. And I love how they're not restricted by cable broadcasting for children's networks, where they have to abide by guidelines. They can't talk about Magneto being in the Holocaust because that would be inappropriate for the little kids. But it's really cool how they're able to show all of that in this episode. And I thought some of the characters were going to die, but they didn't. They're fine. They're okay. You know who did die? Bastion. Right when I saw that Sentinel come down, I thought Bastion was dead when he stomped on it. And I knew, I was like, yep, that's Beast from the first episode. Popped open the Sentinel chest, it was Beast. But then they ended up actually killing Bastion, and it was a satisfying death. You know what wasn't satisfying? Mr. Sinister. I didn't really like that ending. I didn't like how they made him ugly. I mean, that's a good way to defeat Mr. Sinister, but he just ran off and started crying. But I did like how Jean summoned the Phoenix Force to help her, and wasn't overtaken by it. I think that's great character growth. And I liked what the Sinister and Cable storyline. I liked when Jean and Scott were talking to Cable when they thought they were going to die, and Scott was like, I'm going to give you what my father couldn't give me, a final goodbye. And then they got sent off to different times. They don't know what's going to happen, but that's for the next video that I post, which will be about my theories for season 2. This was a really good episode. Great animation. I'm trying to remember everything that happened in it. I was kind of confused when there were characters who were just out in space, and they didn't. Okay, never mind that. I was kind of confused when the characters were off in space, and they just didn't die from lack of oxygen or freezing, and they could talk in space, which you can't do any of that in space in real life. But who knows? Maybe Magneto. Oh, maybe they were still in the atmosphere. Or maybe Magneto's created his own atmosphere around Asteroid M. So I don't know. There's a lot of that in this series where it's just like, this doesn't make sense. But who knows? I'm sure I'm just dumb and there's a reasonable explanation, but I don't know. But yeah. overall, this series, I would rank it a 10 out of 10, but I had some nitpicks of it, so I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. But this series is great. It's everything I wanted. It's way beyond what I expected. And I love it. I love this series. I'm excited for season 2 and season 3. I'm excited, but a little hesitant for it because they hired a new writer. But listen, just that one person is fired doesn't mean everybody else is fired too. Everybody else working on it is still there, and they still love X-Men. The guy that they're bringing in probably still loves X-Men, and they said that they're going to honor the vision of the original writer. So that's great. But anyway, guys, shout out to Jason, and like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Bye. Have a good day.